You may know him as Perry, an agent for the OWCA and a pet of Phineas and Ferb.
Once described as suave, semi-aquatic personification of unstoppable dynamic fury. Perry the Platypus, baby.
My name's Jacqueline.
And I'm Faye.
And we're doing a project on platypuses.
Common name is platypus, obviously, and this is the Latin name right here. The class is Mammalia, and this is the family. And that's just a picture of platypus.
So platypus mostly live in freshwater rivers. They make burrows in the riverbank for shelter, and they only live in a small area of the world, Australia. And they need a warm, moist climate to survive. This is a map in which platypuses live.
So platypuses in the food chain. They are eaten by snakes, goannas, foxes, rodents, and birds of prey, and they eat worms, insects, shrimps, and crustaceans. To defend themselves, the males have venomous spurs on the backs of their legs, and platypuses eat organisms that can be found in the river or on riverbanks where they live. After they find these animals, they store them in their cheek pouches to eat later, and they have a carnivorous diet, and they also eat around 20% of their body weight every day.
They're carnivores, so they maintain the population of species lower in the food chain by attacking their prey.
So, platypus circulatory system is very similar to humans. It's a closed double loop with pulmonary and systematic circuits. The basis of this double circulatory system is all about oxygen. The first loop is called the systematic circuit. In this loop, oxygenated blood moves from the heart to the body, where it offloads oxygen to the muscles, tissues, and organs. At the same time, this blood picks up carbon dioxide and other waste products. Also, their respiratory system is very similar to humans. They work together with the circulatory system to transport oxygen throughout the body and expel CO2. When underwater, their nostrils close to prevent unwanted water intake.
In the platypus skeletal system, their elongated structure is a combination of both mammals and reptiles, so it's good for swimming, diving, walking on land, and burrowing nests up to 20 feet deep. They have 7 vertebrae, but their ribs and inner clavicle resemble reptiles, so it's easier for swimming. Their forearms have large muscle and bones for swimming ease. Their muscular system is very similar to humans, so they have smooth skeletal and cardiac muscles.
So the platypus's skin and just outer covering, their highly insulated skin and thick fur keep them warm in the colder water. They have dark colored fur on their back and lighter colored fur on their belly, and it acts as camouflage from predators from above and below them. And their dense fur also acts as a way to wick water away after the platypus leaves the water.
So the overall body form and symmetry of the platypus, they're about 15 inches from their head to butt, and their tail adds 15 inches. They weigh about 3 pounds, but in colder climates, platypuses are often larger than those in warmer climates. Their webbed front feet act as a paddle in the water, so on land the webbing contracts, but they walk on their knuckles to protect their webbing. Their bill has thousands of receptors that help navigate movement and detect movement of food. So platypus's regulatory functions mean that they're an endotherm. So they use metabolic heat to maintain their internal temperature. So they hide in a burrow during the day. Due to their high caloric diet, they can sleep for 12 hours. Their body temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, so their metabolic rate is half of mammals of similar size. Their adrenal glands are similar to those in marsupials, and they have no stomach, meaning that their ancestors' digestion didn't depend on acids or pepsins, or their gastrointestinal tract is large enough that they don't need a stomach.
So defense functions. As we mentioned earlier, males have a half-inch long spur on the heel of each foot, but females do not. The males use spur to fight over females during mating season, and the platypus venom is a neurotoxin that drops the victim's blood pressure. It's not fatal to humans, but it is to other platypuses and smaller animals, and it overcomes morphine, and there's no anti-venom for it. So platypus reproduction. They go through sexual reproduction. They're only one of 2 mammals to lay eggs, and they're called monotremes because of this. Females lay eggs in tunnels in the riverbanks, and the eggs are laid 21 days after fertilization and hatch 10 to 14 days after that. The mother platypus takes care of its young, but the father does not. During mating season, male fight each other using the poisonous spurs on their heels to mate with a certain female.
So, senses. Platypuses have electroreception, meaning that they use electroreceptors in the skin of their bills. They detect the electrical field generated by prey when it contracts their muscles, and they also swing their head while swimming in order to enhance electroreception. They also have mechanical reception in their bills. It provides a heightened sense of touch, meaning that their bill is their primary sensory organ. Um, Platypuses behave individually, but they suckle from mammary hairs 3 to 4 months before independence, and they become mature at 12 to 18 months, and they become sexually mature at 18 months. And they can live independently without a family for up to 20 years.
So learning. Their mothers teach their young how to swim and find food. The father is obviously not present, like we said before. Platypuses have an innate ability to use sensors in their bill to be able to find food in dark water. And communication. Platypuses are mostly solitary animals, and there are very few sightings or recordings of them vocalizing, except for when they're in extreme danger. Okay, so this is just a video of one of the unique behaviors of platypuses that we explained before, and it's also known to some people as their sixth sense.
Underwater. This ungainly creature has a sixth sense that is hard to beat. Australia's platypus has the tail of a beaver, webbed feet, and a bill like a duck. But this is no ordinary bill. It is a supersensory organ laden with thousands of cells responsive to the electric fields generated by all living things. So, to hunt, the platypus closes its eyes, its ears, and its nose, and lets its bill do the work. Called electrolocation, it is thought the waving back and forth motion we see here helps the platypus to locate exactly where electric pulses are coming from. The pulses are like neon signs advertising fast food. And when one looks promising, the platypus digs away. All thanks to its sixth sense.
So, some dangers caused by human are clearing of vegetation, meaning urbanization, agriculture, and forestry. So, this causes bank erosion, which reduces sunlight, lowering productivity of all wildlife in the water. There is also modification of waterways, meaning dams, and it reduces available environment for creatures in the water, and it prevents movement along waterways, increasing risk of predation. Netting and litter. So many fishermen use netting to catch crayfish, but it can also lure other aquatic animals, especially platypuses, because they prey on crayfish. It impairs their swimming ability, and it usually cuts into the skin. Here's our works cited, and I hope you enjoyed.